Well, according to our tradition, Shavuot is the day on which the Torah was given to the people of Israel. This is not noted in the Bible itself. The Bible knows Shavuot only as the holiday of weeks, Shavuot, and the holiday of the harvest. It's the rabbis who, with some ingenuity, try to prove that the Torah actually gives indication that the Torah was given on the sixth day of the month. What I intend to do now is to read chapter 19, the prefatory chapter to the giving of the Ten Commandments, and to comment about some of the important elements in these few verses. Now, as our sages have indicated to us, and I hope you feel, we were all standing in Mount Sinai. The souls of all of us are eternal. We are the custodian of our souls during our lifetime, and our souls live on in some way or another. We have touch with eternality, not through our physical embodiment, but through our souls. Given that, let's recite the blessing for the reading of Torah together. Baruch et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. B'chodesh hashlishi letzeit b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. On the third month, that's the month of Sivan, after the going out of the Israelites from the land of Egypt, by Yom Hazeh, on this very day, by that it means on the first of the month, Ba'u midbar Sinai, they came to the wilderness of Sinai, V'yisu merfidim, v'yavo'u midbar Sinai, having traveled from Refidim, coming now to the wilderness of Sinai. V'yachanu b'midbar, and they encamped in the wilderness, v'yichan sham Yisrael l'neged hahar, by which we mean that they encamped right at the foot of Mount Sinai. Umoshe Allah el ha'Elohim, and Moses went up to God, v'yikra elav Adonai min hahar, and God spoke to him from out of the mountain, from the mountain. Lemor, Kod Tomar Leveit Yaakov. This is what you shall speak to the children of Jacob, the Israelites. V'taged b'nei Yisrael, I mean the Israelites. Atem reitem asher asiti leMitzrayim. You have seen with your own eyes what I did to the Egyptians, ve'esa etchem al kanfei nesharim, and how I carried you on eagle's wings. Namely, as an eagle protects her children by carrying them on her wings, so did God. So is God represented as a loving parent who carried the Israelites on his back. Va'avi etchem, and I brought you Eli to myself. Va'ata, and this is a crucial move here, now that we have established what I did for you, va'ata, not with an aleph, which means you, but with an ayin, which means therefore, va'ata im shamoa tishma'u b'koli, if you scrupulously heed my voice, listen to me, ushmartem et briti, and keep the covenant, your part of the covenant, v'yitem li segula, you shall be a treasured possession of mine among all the nations, ki li kol ha'aretz, for the whole earth is mine. I have now the right, given what I did to you, and given that I am the master of the universe, I have now the right to command you to keep the covenant. V'yitem li segula mikol ha'amim ki li kol ha'aretz va'atem tihiyu li mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. If you keep my covenant, this is all if then, you shall be to me not only my treasured possession, but a kingdom of priests and a holy people. Elu hadvarim asher tedaber el bnei Yisrael. These are the words that you shall now convey to the Israelites. Vayavo Moshe vayikra leziknei ha'am. And Moses went and he conveyed all of these thoughts to the elders of the people. Notice what we have here. We have the claim that in the light of day, in the presence of all the people, God did wondrous things for them. He took them out of bondage, from the bondage of Egypt, and then he carried them lovingly through the wilderness. As an eagle carries its young on its back, protecting it from the arrows below, so did God carry the people lovingly, protecting them on their way. I did these things for you. You saw them. There are consequences. I am now commanding you to keep my covenant, which will mean performing the mitzvot, which I am about to give you, the 10 Commandments, and then all the commandments that follow. If you do this, or I might say, only if you keep your part of the bargain, will you be an am segula, a treasured possession of mine, and a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Remember that the name of the book of Exodus is Elishmo. These are the names. Moses gets his name, the manna gets its name, and here, the people of Israel, we get our name. It's a definite description. It's not like Venus, a name. It's the morning star. You shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, if and only if. This is not your destiny. This is a consequence of following the commandments. And Moses, I want you now to go and repeat these words to the people. If you do these things, there will be rewards for you. Now, what I want to do at this point is to look at the second reading for the holiday of Shavuot, and that is the story of Ruth. I want to say in advance of the things I'm going to talk about that for me, Ruth is the greatest hero of the entire Bible. And I think we can say why if we compare what Ruth sets out to do in contrast to what the Torah portion I've just read sets out to accomplish. What happens in the book of Ruth? It opens with a claim that there is a famine in Bethlehem, in Beit Lechem. Beit Lechem, Bethlehem, is the house of bread. Here comes the first contrast. It's in the city of plenty, the house of bread, that we have paucity. And this contrast between plenty and paucity weaves its way through the book of Ruth. At this point, a family, husband and wife Elimelech and Naomi, and their two sons, Machlon and Chilion, leave Bethlehem in order to find food in a more promising place. And where do they go? They go to the land of Moab. Moab, throughout the Bible, is a great enemy of the Israelites. So immediately we see exile, famine, and life in an enemy territory. Machlon and Chilion, their sons, married two Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah. And very quickly, all the men die. Elimelech, Machlon, and Chilion. Before verse 6, all of this has taken place. I'm going to make a literary comment. This is an author who knows what he or she is up to. I remember very distinctly in freshman English in college, the professor, before he gave us the first writing assignment, said, here's what I suggest you do. Start writing, write the first paragraph on the assumption that you're going to throw it out. Get started, you can come back and write the first paragraph. I think you'll agree with me that the author of the book of Ruth didn't need to throw out the first paragraph. The author knew exactly what he or she was up to from the start. At this point, Naomi is with only two women, Orpah and Ruth, two Moabite women, enemies from the enemy territory. And she hears that the famine has ended in Bethlehem, and she intends to go back to Bethlehem. And it says here that she started out with her daughters-in-law to return to the country of Moab. For in the country of Moab, she heard that the Lord had taken note of his people and given them food. The famine is ending. Accompanied by her two daughters-in-law, she left the place where she'd been living, and they set out on the road back to the land of Judah. Orpah and Ruth are committed to going back to Bethlehem, their enemy territory, with Naomi. And Naomi immediately recognizes how difficult this is going to be for them. So she says, turn back each of you to your mother's house. And then something quite astonishing takes place as a simple declarative sentence, and so we're likely to miss its significance. She says to them, may the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. May God take God's cue for how to act on the basis of your actions. May God learn from you. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with me. The author, in a stunningly original expression of imagination, thinks of these two anonymous Moabite women as the instructors for God. May the Lord grant each of you to find security in the house of a husband. And she kissed them farewell, and they broke out into weeping. No, they both said, we will return with you. But Naomi continued, no, turn back. There's nothing in this for you. You're going to an enemy territory, isolated, with no hope of any positive consequence or reward. And Orpah gets the logic, and with tears, she returns home. We cannot blame Orpah. She does a good thing. They broke into weeping again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law farewell, but Ruth clung to her. This phrase is often used as an imperative to people. Cling to God. Varut davkaba, dvekut. And it reverses the order of the verb and the noun. Verb comes first, noun second. When the noun comes first, it's to be emphasized. It's not just, and Ruth clung to her. It's, as for Ruth, pay attention, she clung to Naomi. And she said, Naomi, go and return as your sister-in-law has done. And then Ruth says, do not urge me to go, for wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your God shall be my God, your people my people. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. And the Torah then says, when Naomi saw how determined Ruth was to go with her, and the verb for determined is mit-ametzet, from the root amatz, which means to be strong in the reflexive mode. When Naomi recognized how Ruth had drawn from the strength which she had created for herself, Naomi thought, I can't dissuade her. Ruth has mastered her passions, her desires to return home, and she has determined now to go with Naomi. Let's think of the contrast between this story of Ruth and what we just read in the Torah. In the Torah, the people see what God has done for them, which is the premise for God's right to command. Ruth sees nothing of what God has done. On the basis of what they have seen and experienced, God now says, I am going to give you commandments and I'm going to demand that you be faithful to the covenant. Ruth receives no commandments. What she does is not a response to a commandment. And God says, if you do these things in Exodus 19, you will get rewards. You will be a kingdom of priests and a holy people. You will be my treasured possession. Ruth is offered no rewards whatsoever. What happens in Exodus is the people see the logic of commandment, and they are enjoined to obey the commandments. How do they do? How do they do? We are now in the book of Numbers in our Torah portions of the week. What we see in the book of Numbers as the people begin to walk through the wilderness toward the promised land is one rebellion after another. In fact, what the people want to do most of all is return to Egypt, which they call the promised land, the land of a lot of food. If you're given commandments, the commandments stand outside of you and require some obedience, and if you don't get the point of the commandments, you're likely not to follow them. The people don't get the point of Sinai. Ruth gets the point without ever having been commanded. The rabbis make a distinction between din and lifnim mashurat hadin, law and seeing within the meaning of the law to what it intends. Law is external. We have an opportunity to obey it or not. When we take the meaning and the purpose of the law into our hearts and into our souls, it becomes part of us. We do the right thing because that's part of our second nature. Ruth follows the law without having been commanded, without seeing it as some external force, and with no reward being held out for compliance. Ruth has gotten the point of the Torah on Mount Sinai. Without the externals of seeing what God has done or what the commandments are. Ruth gets the point of the need for caring for another, for recognizing the situation, the pain, the loneliness, the yearning the grief that Naomi has gone through and continues to experience. And she reaches out into the heart and soul of another person and expresses compassion and companionship and resolve. I will be with you not just now, but forever. I will be with you not just in life, but in death. I am casting my lot with you because I love you and care about you and want only your well-being. Some of you may know that the philosopher Aristotle, in his Nicomachean Ethics, his treatise on ethics, which has 10 chapters, he devotes 2 chapters to friendship. 20% of his ethical treatise is on friendship. And he claims there are 3 forms of friendships. Friendships of pleasure, friendships of utility, and virtue friendships. Some of my friends give me pleasure. This is a good thing. Some of my friends I find do things for me. But the highest form of friendship is when 2 people care deeply about each other and about their well-being. These are virtue friendships based on character. Ruth is not only the exemplar of what it means to have stood on Sinai, she also mirrors Aristotle's understanding of the highest form of friendship, based on virtue and caring. This is some of the reason why I feel that Ruth is the Bible's greatest character. Or as I sometimes put it to myself at least, Ruth is Abraham perfected. Go to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. Your name shall be great. Directed by God, reward being held out. And Abraham, to his great credit, goes. The point here is not to diminish Abraham, but to recognize that Ruth goes, not to the land pointed out to her, but the land of her beloved's mother-in-law, without any hope for, I will make you a great nation. This is what it means to understand the deepest meaning of what it means to have a purpose in life and to accompany another person or people on their journey. Let's now recite the blessing after the reading and the discussion of Torah. Let's do it together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.